Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Jodie and I am a corset making virgin. So for today's video, I thought we would try and see how easy it is for somebody who has absolutely no idea what they're doing in terms of making corsets, if I can actually pull it off. This is by no way gonna be a sewing tutorial, absolutely not at all, would not insult Sew Curvy with even attempting. This is purely documentation to see how someone like me, who has absolutely no idea what they're doing, gets on with one of these kits. So I'm really excited. So what I'll do is I'll take you over to the package that I received a couple of weeks ago. It's been sitting on my desk, I've been so eager to open it, and we'll get started. So this is what we got in the post from Sew Curvy when you order one of their kits. Now this was the under bust kit and I believe it was around £45. I did order some extra fabric as well because I come up into the slightly bigger size. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but we'll soon find out. But in the kit, this is Sew Curvy Corset Kit. I have opened this because I'm a child and I always need to see what's going on. Inside we have everything we need to construct this corset. So they have sent us these grommets with even a grommet tool. They're 5mm. Some instructions there. We've got a make a corset, discover a passion. Little thank you note there, which is really cute. We have what I believe is the boning. Yep, here we go. So they supplied us with all the boning that we'd need. So we've got some spiral boning there, some flats. Oh, that's the clasp. Corsetry clasp. Oh, can't even get it undone. Yeah, corset clasp. All our boning, our flat steel boning, and our spring-loaded boning. Oh, they've already got their edgings on. They've sent us a few of these as well. Maybe they're spares, I'm not sure. And then we have, I think this is some bias binding. Yeah, I've got some bias binding here. I think this is the twill tape here. You can see that. I did order it in black, so the fabric is black on purpose because it's just a beginner's project. I've got some more, looks like twill tape there, some wider twill tape. Some corset lacing, and then the actual fabric itself, which is really stiff. Don't know if you can hear that. Really stiff corset fabric. That's going to be fun to iron out. And then you actually get your pattern itself by Sew Curvy. So like I said, this other one is just more the same of this, but I'll open it up so you can see. So it's just some extra fabric. Heaven forbid I mess it up or have to start again, or I need a little bit extra because of width. Never made it before, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So yeah, that's everything that comes into the kit. So let's take a look at the pattern. So let's take a look at the pattern then. So this is the pattern that comes with the kit. If we open it out, you'll have to bear with me, I'm trying to do this one-handed. So on the front, obviously you've got the picture of what corset you've got, and on the back, we've got our list of materials that were provided for us. Thank you, Sew Curvy. And the equipment that we're going to need in order to make this, a zippers foot, a tapers or eyelet setter, rotary cutter or scissors, etc, etc. Then we've also got our measurement chart here. It's interesting that it includes the bust because this is actually an under bust. So my first thoughts are, without actually reading the instructions, do I need to do my bust measurement anyway, or do they actually want the under bust? Though I would have thought they would have specified under bust if they wanted that. So I'm going to assume that you're meant to be taking your actual bust measurement, but we will read the instructions and find out. And then a little note here that says, oh, sorry, the camera went blurry. Let's try and focus in. I lost focus. The measurements given in this size chart are for the natural uncorseted body and are loosely based on UK's standard high street sizes. So I know then that these measurements I'm looking at are before a corset. So that's quite helpful actually. Right, try and open it up a bit more. So the bottom you have a note section. Right, let's open it the right way. This is a bit difficult with one hand. So on the other side we have, oh, there we go, haha. Start from the top because it's quite a long pattern. So our corset patterns are here at the top. So we'll be going across those, tracing them out. There we go. It looks like there's, how many pieces? Oh, no, there's more underneath as well. So it looks like there's about 6 pieces to this corset. And then the instructions are right below the pattern. So it might be easier. I might want to cut this top off so that I have them separate, because I don't really have a lot of room on my sewing table, so it might be difficult, but we'll see what happens. So now we've got our instructions. That's excellent. It tells us where we're measuring. So we'll have a look at those. Then gives us a little help with sizing, which is going to be really, really helpful because I have no idea how we should be sizing a corset, because it's not meant to meet at the back. I think there's meant to be so many inches gap at the back. So this will be quite an important step. And then the rest, by the looks of it, is how to start it. They're even telling you to make a twirl, so we will be doing that anyway, because I don't want to be cutting into this fabric without making a mock-up first. We've got a bit about the fit. We've got some, calculating bone length. This should be quite useful in the future. I mean, right at the moment we already have it pre-cut for us, but it's good to learn. So then we have make it pretty, talking about something called flossing. I don't know what that is, so I will Google that. And we're going to turn it over. And then this is the general construction, how we're doing it, instructions. Now I'm not going to know how clear these are for a beginner like myself until actually I sit down and thoroughly read them and start trying to construct this bad boy. So I can't make a comment on that. Oh look, anatomy of the corset. I do like that. That's really interesting. Waist stays and things like that. That should hopefully make things a little bit more clearer as we progress through this video. And then a little bit about lacing the corset. So I'm really, really excited. So what I think we're going to do to start off with and start making our twirl is we're going to do some body measurements as per the instructions, and then we're going to locate the size we're cutting out, and then we're going to cut that out and pop it together, I think. I don't know if I have to put boning in the twirl. We'll soon see. So let's get into it. I'm gonna take my body measurements in inches, but you can do centimetres if you prefer. Because the pattern states inches, I think it's just easier to do on inches. So first measurement I'm gonna take is the bust, which mine comes to a, just making sure it's in the right position all the way around, 43 bust from the apex. My under bust is, it's hard to see with the boobs in the way, 37. And then my natural waist, which is the bit that bends in here, that's 35. And then my hip, so that actually goes over my bottom, is, I don't think it's going to come this low though, so that's 44.5, but I'm not sure it's going to come that high, so I might want to come a little bit higher. Say 42, because I think this is where the corset's actually going to sit, rather than on the widest part of my hip, which is where I normally do a hip measurement, which is 44. So there's only 2-inch difference anyway. So there are measurements, so let's go see where we fit in terms of sizing. So now we've got our measurements, it's time to have a look what size we need to be tracing and cutting out this pattern at. So when I looked at the actual instructions for sizing, it states that you, for this pattern, are to be guided by your waist measurement. So my waist measurement comes to be 35, which is their size 20. The bust is going to be too big, and the lower hip is definitely going to be too big. I'm a little worried. I don't know whether to go down some, but then I'm not entirely sure how that will work out either. But we're making a twirl anyway, so I am going to start off with a bigger size, and then if that comes up far too big, I think we'll then go down to the 18. So that's where we're at now. I'm going to cut out the size, well, I'm going to trace and cut out the size 20, and then we'll see what that looks like. Here we have all our pattern pieces cut out. I stuck to the size 20. I didn't dare grade to the size 16 for the hips because I never made a corset before. So I haven't done that. Now I have one tiny weeny little criticism before we've even started, and that the pattern on the pattern pieces doesn't state how many you should cut out. I'm sure it probably does in the instructions, and I haven't got that far yet. But usually on your pattern pieces, it'd be like cut 1, cut 2. So it's important to note that these 6 pieces is actually just one side of the corset. So you will have to cut 2. So that's just my first teeny weeny little criticism. Everything else is perfectly fine. I think it's really clear in terms of being able to trace it over. I was reading through the instructions, and we need to add our own seam allowance, and Sew Curvy recommends 1.5 centimetres. So when we pop this on our fabric, I'm going to trace around the pattern, and then I'm going to do my 1.5 centimetre seam allowance just on the sides, not on the top and bottom. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go get some calico, and then we'll pop it on the mock-up fabric and see how we get on. So now we have our pattern pieces on our calico. This isn't the stiffest of calicos, but it is fairly stiff. It doesn't mimic the fabric that we're going to use, which I really should be using maybe like a linen or something. But this is what I had in my stash, so this is what I'm using. So when I was reading the instructions, it says for the mock-up to cut the centre front on the fold. And the reason it says this is because normally we'd have a front closure. We don't want to have to put the front closure in. So I'm going to cut that one on the fold. The rest I'm going to cut just on their own. The fabric is doubled over, so it is going to cut two for me in one go. That will just help my seam allowances as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of this after adding all the seam allowances in, and then we'll have a look what the instructions say. Here we have all the pieces cut out in our calico. I've done 2 pieces there. I'm going to have to transfer these markings onto the other one so I don't get lost on the other side. I'm going to go get the oar and just pierce these holes here. You may notice that I haven't cut out the 2 straight strips. That's because they are for the binding, the interfacing. And as this is a mock-up, I won't be interfacing it because this is going to be purely for fit. So I haven't done the 2 interfacing pieces, but I have done the actual bit for the body. This becomes centre front rather than have our closures on there. So I'm going to draw like a line down the middle side there. All in all, I'm quite happy with it. I think it looks like it should do. I think it still maintains its portions. So yeah, let's get into it. Here we have our first mock-up. So all the pieces have been put together. I did originally just hand tack these in, but then I remembered that my pen is air soluble, so I didn't want to lose my seam allowance that I marked in, so I went back in and just machine stitched really loosely the panels. So I'm going to iron this out. I think I'm going to iron the seam allowance flat as well, and then I'm going to get a bit of string. I'm going to lace this up, and then I'm going to attempt to try and fit it on me, which will be interesting on my own. I'll see if I can get some help, but for the time being it's on my own. So I'm going to press these out flat as well. The instructions say to sellotape the boning into the channels so you can get like a proper idea of the fit, so I might also do that. So I'm going to give this a good iron. I'm going to play around with it, and then see how much we take away. I imagine I'm going to have to lose some of this hip area here. I think that's too big, but everywhere else I think should be fairly okay, maybe a little bit from the top, but I can always already tell that it flares out a little bit more than I do. So I'm expecting to lose probably about 1 inch just there. So I'm going to try this on, I'm going to mess around with it, and then we'll see how it fits. So here's my mock-up on my dress form that's been padded out to my size. So although this is not going to be a true fit compared to me actually trying on, it will give me a vague idea of how much I need to take out. And as you can see in the hips, I've got a fair bit of room to take out, and I've done that evenly on both sides. I've got some pencil markings there. So this is before I've even put the lacing in, so I'm trying to get a rough idea of what it's going to be like. Now I'm thinking that maybe I should take this in with a basting stitch, then lace it up and try it on to get a proper fit in, or maybe I should, because these are marked, pop it on with the lacing at the back and then see how true these markings are, which is I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lace it up first, because all these they're marked where I need to take it in, so I've got a bit on the top as well that I need to take in, which I knew I had to. Oh, sorry, camera's gone all, there we go, out of focus. Yeah, so I knew I had to take it in a little bit at the top, and I definitely knew that I needed to take it in from the bottom. So this does make sense, and I think it's fairly accurate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lace up the back, I'm going to try it on my body, and then I'm going to see how true these markings are, and like change my pen and mark it in a different colour. Now I haven't read the instructions yet, so all I've done is just pop these together, just side seams, match them up. So I haven't actually read the instructions. I'm not sure how big a gap you're meant to have in your back, whether it's a personal preference or something like that, or whether it's meant to be like so many inches. I'm assuming there's like a standard size, but this is obviously unlaced, so I don't want to be making any alterations to this bit until I know what it's like laced up and boned. So there's no boning in this at the minute. This is purely just seeing how it fits and making sure there's like none of this puckering. So you can see there's a little bit of that, so I need to smooth that out and make sure that it's sitting flat, so I don't want the fabric to twist and things underneath. So I think once I get that bit sewn up, hopefully this puckering will go. I might need to let it, oh no, I'm gonna have to tighten it up maybe once I tighten it up that puckering will disappear. Maybe it will disappear with boning. So the next step anyway is to try it on with the laces, see how accurate my measurements are based on my body form to my actual body. And then we will go back over this with our sewing machine. As you can see, I've graded it in. I'll go back over it with our sewing machine, try it on again, and then if we've got a nice fit, I'm going to take this apart and then using my new lines, recut on paper all these pattern pieces again, do a second fresh mock-up after I've added it back in my seam allowance, because when I'm cutting all this out, I'll cut away my seam allowance again so I can start fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and get on with that, and then we'll get on to the next step. Alright, mock-up 2 is done and on the mannequin, all laced up. I think this is going to be good to go. The instructions state that these should be parallel, and I believe that they are. The fitting's definitely a lot better around the hips and underneath the bust. I'm going to attempt the process of putting this on myself by myself, because there's no one here to lace me up, so that's going to be an interesting event. But yes, here it is, all done. Oh, I might have to take out a little bit there maybe, but then maybe once it's laced up on my person. And I'm hoping again where it's pulling a little bit, I don't know if you can see that once it's got some boning and stuff in there, it will taut the fabric and then I won't have these pulls. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. I think this works well. So I'm going to go and try it on and see what I reckon. This is how the mock-up fits. This is mock-up 2. I cannot for the life of me lace this up at the back on my own, but the general gist, I think this will be perfectly fine to do my underbust corset from. Quite happy with it. I think that once the boning's in, it will stand up obviously a lot straighter and things. So yeah, best of my ability. I did try and lace it up, but I just can't see what I'm doing, and I'm trying to put on cords to tighten it, and yeah, it's not a one-man job. But this is it. So now is the fun part of unpicking all this, and then I believe we need to treat the fabric that we're actually going to be making this out of. Pretty sure that Sew Curvy have a tutorial on that, so I'm going to have a look at that and we'll get started. So I have ironed all my final mock-up pattern pieces, and I have ironed and steamed this fabric, this corset fabric, which I've never worked with before. It's very stiff and apparently picks up everything. As I was reading through the instructions, I realised that I have to make sure that I'm adding an extra 1.5 centimetres to this, which is my centre front, because I cut it on the fold when I was doing the mock-up, and also to this bit here as well. I need to add another 1.5 centimetres. So I'm going to go and do that. I'm just going to turn these over and draw around them in the hope that that will still be accurate. I might have to rethink that, but this is where we're at the minute. So I'm going to go ahead and draw around all these and get it cut out. So one side of the fabric is all marked, and I've put an X for the wrong side of the fabric because this is really hard to tell which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. There probably isn't one, it's probably exactly the same on both. But what I just thought about was, how on earth am I going to mark these grommet holes? Because obviously my chalk's not going to go through it, and no pen that I have is going to show up on this really dark fabric. So I think what I'm going to have to do is cut it out, and then I'm going to have to mark the holes pretty much straight away for that, just so that I don't lose them. But yeah, so this is where we are. So I'm about to cut it out. And then hopefully not get lost. Definitely have to turn the fabric over and mark it again on the other side so that I don't confuse myself, because I do see that happening. It was easier with the mock-ups, but this is not going to be as simple, I don't think. So yeah, this is where we are. I'm going to go ahead and cut all this out, and then we'll move on to the next step. We have all of our panels all marked on both sides. We have our facings that I've added 1.5 centimeters to either side, and the pattern states that we are to make a left pile and a right pile. So that's what I've done. The next step that I've got to get my head around, and I'm probably going to read and reread the instructions, is to put in the front closure. So that's the first step. So I'm not going to do any more tonight. I'm just going to read through the instructions, make sure I've got a good grasp of them, and then tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and install it. So it's day 2, and I've gone ahead and I've marked in where the busk points go. And as I was doing this, it occurred to me, I have facing for the back. Well, I have one, which seems a bit weird, and I have one for the front. But I'm pretty sure I need 2, because obviously it has 2 sides. And it doesn't explicitly say that in the pattern. But I'm going to cut another one of these and another one of these, because these are the facings. Now, I have a little bit of an issue. My fabric, although it's long enough for the back, just isn't for the front one. So I have all this left over, but it's too long. Oh, let's get it focused. Yeah, so it's too long. Now, because it's only a facing, is it going to matter if I go the other way on the grain? I don't know. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I don't know if it's going to matter and if it's going to affect like the overall finish. I'm hoping it won't. I mean, you can see that this has, if I move my hand out of the way, lines in the actual fabric, but it'll be on the inside. So it won't matter, right? Oh, I don't know. We'll soon find out, I guess. So I'm going to cut 2 more of these out. This one's going to have to be facing the opposite way, and I hope to God it's not going to affect it too much. I'm gonna also install the busk and then come back to it. Really quite concerned at how this is going to mess it up. I already watched a video on making corsets and people were really exact in their measurements. I haven't been exact at all. So this is potentially already set for disaster, but we'll soon find out. So let's give it a go. Right, it's in. I've got the first part installed and fairly neatly. I think I've gone literally as close to this edge as I physically could. The whole time I was panicking about breaking a needle. Not that breaking a needle was a big deal, but I was really thinking I'd end up proper going through, well, attempting to go through this metal. But if you go really slow, it seems to be all right. So I think that that's really secure in there. I'm quite happy with that. So the next step I've got to work on is the other side, which is going to involve this, and this is going to be crucial because they need to match, otherwise it's going to throw the whole thing off. And we've already said that I haven't been the most exact with this, not as exact as I should have been, could have been, and will be in the future. So I'm really hoping that I haven't set myself up to fail already, but we shall see. So the next step is to pop this in. I think it's going to be fairly similar to this side. I'll have a look at the instructions, and then I think we need to start sewing the other panels together. Front is done and matches nicely. I think I have a slight overlap though, and I don't think there is meant to be one. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll soon find out once it's all sewn together. Next step, I've got to start working on the back of the corset. Pretty much doing the same as what I've done this side with putting the facings to the panels. Potentially having to make some holes, not sure yet. So I'm going to read the instructions and I'm going to crack on with that, and then I'll meet you back here for the next step. So the next step was to sew a row of stitching really close to the centre front. So I did it as close as I possibly could to the centre front, and then it says to measure 1 centimetre from that line across and do a next row of stitching, and this bit here is going to form a boning channel. Now, just to be 100% certain that my boning would fit, I've taken the boning and I've lined it up against that row of stitching, and then I've just used that edge to create my next sewing line to ensure that it will fit. Like I said, I haven't been as exact as I should have been, so this is my hopefully foolproof way of doing it. So assuming that this is the boning that goes in, that's what I've done. I've done that for both pieces. So I'm gonna go and stitch these lines in and then just double check that the boning then fits in there. Right, I've installed one boning channel here, and we've got our gap for our eyelets, and then there's another boning channel here. Flip this over, and then I've just trimmed off the excess. We've got 2 boning channels, and I've checked to make sure that the boning fits in them. So now we've got to work on the eyelets. I have finally got one set of eyelets in situ, which has taken me a good 10 to 15 minutes to put in, and I've still got this other side to do. But so far so good, other than this button's off slightly. It's not even a button, it's a eyelet. So this eyelet's off slightly. Definitely closer here than here and any of the rest of them. So that's probably going to cause a problem when it comes to lacing it up. The fabric's become very warped with all the tugging and the hammering and the pulling around. So I'm hoping that that will iron out. I've never worked with this fabric before, so I'm not sure. So we will see. So I've finally sewn all the panels together. It needs a really good press, and it's picked up a load of the fluff from my desk, so I need to brush all that off. So the next step now, it says we need to start grading and pressing the seams. So this line here was meant to match all the way through, and I wasn't accurate when I was marking that, and that was a big downfall. So some of them have changed, but I know that this one is sitting lower than this one over here. So definitely something to remember for next time, that I do really need to pay attention to this waistline. So I'm going to start preparing all these for the boning and insert the waist tape once I figure out how one inserts waist tape. So I've popped in the waist tape. I've just secured it at both ends like the instructions says, so it's got a little bit of a stitch there. It's still all loose here. There's nothing, it's not secured down here yet. That will happen when the boning channels are put in, and then I've just secured a little bit in there, so it's just sitting underneath this seam allowance. So the next step now is to pop in our boning channels. First lot of boning channels are in situ, and they're not looking too bad. This is not really tight, but still fairly firm, so I'm quite happy with that. Oh, I've lost focus. When it wants to focus, hello. So there we go. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to do the same again for the other side, which is this one, and then I'm going to pop the boning in. It's time to place the boning. So we have the steel boning for the back, and then we have this bendy spiral boning for these channels that I've just popped in. So we're going to go ahead and put all the bone. It's time to
I've attached the binding right sides together like this, and then what I'm planning on doing is flipping it over like I have here. And then it does say to hand stitch it down, but I don't trust my hand stitching to be strong enough to hold this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch over the top here. So the binding is all attached at the top now. So I'm going to pop this on my mannequin so I can lace it up. It's looking a little bit warped, but it's not when it's actually on. I did hit one boning, but it didn't break my needle, thankfully. So I was quite lucky with that. So now this is all top stitched. We're going to attach it to the mannequin, lace it all up as best I can, and then I'm going to try it on. Here it is, the finished product. Excuse what I'm wearing, I'm in my gym clothes, but I've managed to lace it up as best I could at the back. And overall, I'm pretty impressed. One thing I have noticed is the fabric, I don't know if you can see, is pulling here. So I definitely think that when I was cutting it out, I did not pay enough attention to the grain line. So have got some pulling across here, well, all the way around really, if I'm honest. It might have something to do with how I've laced it, because like I said, I've laced it myself as best I could, but I think it does a really good job of cinching you in. I definitely feel a lot slimmer in it. It's something that I would wear over the top of a shirt maybe. But all in all, Sew Curvy's pattern is really self-explanatory. They do offer videos as well, so if there's anything in the instructions that you don't understand, they have videos on that for free, I believe. I didn't actually use any of their videos, so I can't comment on them, but I'll definitely use them in the future, I think.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!